Anyway, what's up, everybody? What's up? Know I'm getting to this a little bit late for this one, but man, last chapter, what was it, 441 that we were at? Last chapter, it kind of, I guess here's what I would say about last chapter. Last chapter, I was confused a little bit because I didn't know whether or not he plunged his sword into Cecilia, because that's what I immediately thought. I thought it was like, okay, he stabbed Cecilia, or I didn't know if he actually stabbed maybe Viessa or Melsry, one of the other sides. So I didn't know who he actually stabbed his sword into. But the weird thing about the way the chapter had ended was when he said that, and this is the part that I got the most confused on. The ether blade plunged into the interwoven threads of ether. A scream rent the air. Now, what does that mean? The interwoven threads of ether. Like, to me, it seems like possibly God step, because of the pathways that lights up to him. So maybe he plunged his sword into the pathways, and then it kind of went to where he wanted it to go to, and it so say he plunged his sword into the pathways, and then the sword came out the other side, going through Melsry or Viessa, or maybe even Cecilia herself, right? So maybe that could be what it was, but it wasn't. It maybe not Cecilia, because the way he talked about how he was looking at her, like the light faded and my gaze met her stare, and like it seemed like maybe he's staring at her from a distance. So I'm guessing maybe it's not Cecilia that he had stabbed. It might be more likely to be Melsry or Viessa or something like that. But we're about to find out, though. We're about to find out. This is probably like the latest I done done a live reaction for a video, but I've just been busy, though. I've been busy. I've been playing the one game that just recently came out, Baldur's Gate 3. I don't know if you guys been playing that, but that's just dope. So I've been playing that for a lot. But I didn't know for sure if I wanted to do 2 chapter reactions in the same day, because I just think that that'd take like 3 hours to get through both of them. So I figured I'll just get it out now, and then I should still be. I'll probably end up doing the chapter reaction for Saturday. That's probably what I'll end up doing. I'll probably end up just doing it for Saturday. But anyway, let me just get into it and see kind of where we go from here. Because at this point, I don't know what's going to be concluded with this battle. Like, I don't know what's going to be solved, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know, what's going to be resolved from this fight. Like, is Cecilia going to get captured? I highly doubt she get captured. Are all the sides going to die? Possibility. Is this fourth party, this fourth group, we don't know how many, or if it's one lone person, we don't know. Are they going to show up, show their head at the end of this fight or during the fight? So yeah, I'm not really sure how this is going to conclude, but I mean, I don't think Arthur's going to get captured. I wouldn't want Sylvie to get captured or anything again, because we just went like a lot of time without her. But Chul, he just got introduced. It'll be kind of crazy for him to get captured like soon as he got introduced. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, if I were to make a prediction before we get into the next chapter, A Sword Stuck, I would say one of the sides is going to die. Maybe some retainers. Maybe I don't think she's going to be able to beat Arthur. They're kind of at a standstill. Although Arthur is kind of getting the best of her a little bit, just a little bit. But her control over mana is so great that he can't really do too much to influence her mana unless she's distracted. So he has more like, I don't know. I was gonna say he has more offensive firepower, but he only has his sword. Like, he can't really do spells or like gravity, what she's doing, snow, ice, lightning. Like, he can't do any of that shit. So like his area effect is just not that high. Anyway, let's just get into the chapter though, because I don't want to keep stalling out. But A Sword Stuck, chapter 442. My sword, conjured of pure ether and held together by my will alone, plunged into the interwoven threads of ether. Okay, so maybe we might get the what that mean, the interwoven threads of ether around me. Revealed by the God step rune. So I am right. So he plunged his sword into the pathways. So this is new because I don't think he's ever done this before. He plunged his sword into the pathways and it came out the other end. It's like he plunged into this side, right? But it came out on this side. So, you know, like it's kind of like this type of thing. The more he goes in, where he can kind of like change the trajectory, like, oh, I want to plunge in on this side, or I want to plunge in on that side. So I think that's what's happening. So that's cool. That's new. Although I wish they would have like shown us something. Maybe he just wanted to be a surprise. Maybe that's the reason why we didn't get any of this abilities, how he's able to, you know, shroud other people in his ether, and, you know, he can do all this shit. So maybe it's just a surprise, right? He's been doing the training. Maybe he learned this stuff in their training area they did with the black blood monster being creatures, whatever. Maybe he learned all this stuff in there, but we just didn't get revealed everything except for we got revealed, what was it, his burst step, but with his fist. Maybe that's like only thing there. And then he also said that he can elongate his sword and make it go further away from him. So maybe he learned all this back then, but we just didn't get revealed all of it. That's kind of what making the most sense to me. But anyway, so he plunged his sword, plunged into interwoven threads of ether around me, revealed by the God step rune. The network of amethyst paths connected every point to every other point around me. Through the etheric realm, I had learned from the last gem projection. Okay. The God rune had changed when I made that realization, and the knowledge that sat dormant in the back of my mind ever since, a deepening of insight, but without a clear use. So wait, is he saying that he always knew how to do this? He just never had to use it? I had learned, let's say, the network of amethyst paths connected every point to every other point around me through the etheric realm. I had learned from the last gem projection. The God rune had changed when I had made that realization. So he had the knowledge in the back of his mind, a deepening of insight, but without a clear use. Until the moment of necessity when I had no choice but to translate knowledge into action. So he had no way of using it, but he figured out that, he figured out a way to use it now because he actually had a reason for it. So I see those. So I see what's happening. Makes more sense now. My senses flow through the ether. So I'm guessing he's about to attack Malzuri or Viessa, because I don't think it's Cecilia, just because the way he was looking and talking about her, looking at him, and he was looking at her and gazing and all this other shit. My senses flowed through the ether, the paths in between space that connected everything together. I saw Cecilia, the final vestiges of her last attack still burning the atmosphere between us. The many-armed silhouette of mana wrapped around the body she'd taken from Tessia. And Nico beside her. His uncertain gaze drifting between us, his hand reaching for her shoulder but not daring to touch her. He's noticing all this shit, man. The ether blade plunged deeper into the lightning bolt network of ether. I saw Draniv. So wait, okay, this is different, man. It's kind of like he's slowing down time almost. Or maybe that he's just recalling everything he's seen all in a flash. What is happening right now? Like, is he like seeing everything all at the same time now? So he's seeing Nico, he's seeing Cecilia, he saw Draniv, his unconscious form curled up beneath a chunk of fallen stone from the roof, his shattered mask in the rubble at his side, and Mawar, the inky shield clinging to her flesh, not able to hide the steady flow of blood from her hips, and Malzuri in front of her, her bloodshot, blood-colored eyes slicing through the air like her blades as she moved focus from me to Sylvie's back. The pathways drew my strike. The pathways drew my strike into themselves. The pathways drew my strike into themselves, guiding it through the space itself. I saw the collection of mana particles, shrouding the figure in shadows of the twisted and broken ceiling. I saw the collection of mana particles shroud. So now he's seeing mana while he's into God stuff. Is he into God stuff or is he just seeing the pathways? I don't know what the hell was happening, man. So I saw the collection of mana particles shrouding the figure in the shadows of the twisted and broken ceiling. So the twisted and broken ceiling, there shouldn't be anybody in the shadows because you got Mawar with the inky shield, right? We got Dreneve, we got Melsri, we got Viessa. Chul went like down into this big ass hole or some shit with Sylvie's attack. So maybe this figure that's in the shadows is the person who killed the Sovereign, which is still crazy, by the way. Maybe that's what he's referring to. The threads of mana under her control. Yeah, the threads of mana under her control spilling across the... Wait, maybe it's not. I saw the collection of mana particles shrouding the figure in shadows of the twisted and broken ceiling. The threads of mana under her control spilling across the chamber and down on Sylvie and Chul like probing fingers into their brain. Oh, he's talking about Viessa. He's talking about Viessa, the figure in shadows. So she's in the ceiling. Yeah, that's what's going on. Viessa is in the ceiling, and he can see her mana particles and her controlling her spell to go into Chul and Sylvie. All right, okay, I got it now. The threads of mana under control spilling across the chamber and down on Sylvie and Chul like probing fingers in their brain. So he is not being influenced. Because part of me also thought that maybe he might be influenced and maybe he might stab Sylvie by accident or some shit like that. But it doesn't seem like he's influenced at all. Maybe because of his connection with Ether, he can't get, mana can't manipulate his mind like that. So it wouldn't work on him. That's what I'm thinking. Just because of his connection with Ether. Probing into their brains. The blade struck home, and a scream rent the air. So it looked like he was going for Viessa. Each point connecting each other point, the connective tissue of this world, the etheric realm, a strike delivered from one space, but falling in another. So that's exactly what's going on. That's wild, bruh. That means that you gotta watch your back because he can literally just stab the air and that shit can come to your neck or it can come to your chest or it can come to your back. Like, cause he got the pathways. He can just see everything. So that's crazy. Okay, shit, where was I at? Did I scroll down too far? I think I scrolled down too far. Okay, yeah, the blade struck home and a scream rent the air. Each point connecting each other point, the connective tissue of this world, the etheric realm, a strike delivered from one space but falling in another. A beam of violent light hovered for an instant in the air. Shadows rippled and Viessa formed around it. A beam of light hovered for an instant in the air, so that must be her. Shadows rippled, Viessa formed around it. The blade sprouting out of her sternum. Oh, wow. Shit. She coiled in on herself like a spider, her scream cutting out just as sharply as it had sounded, but her mouth remained open. Woo! Goodness gracious. So it's kind of like a, and you're just dead. Mouth still open, agape. But her mouth remained open. Her silent cry somehow even worse than the banshee wail. And she writhed waves of purple hair rose up around her face like a ghostly nimbus. I pulled the blade free and it retracted back through the third pathway, sliding out of her body so that she plummeted to the ground. That is crazy, man. The versatility with so this can kind of be his long range attack, right? So he can literally be like this from a far ass distance and still get to your ass. Well, this makes sense. I should have already known that he was, but then again, he should be able to conjure. But then he can conjure multiple swords and shit. So this is all new, man. Oh man. Okay. Anyway, where was I at? Okay, yeah, yeah. See, I pulled the blade free and it retracted back through the etheric paths, sliding out of her body so that way she plummeted to the ground. Cecilia and Nico had both glanced towards the source of the scream. Melzy was frozen in place, horrified and transfixed as she watched the other side bounce off the crumbling tiles. The only noise the only noise for a handful of heartbeats was the crackling of phoenix fire. Despite the blood matting her hair to her head from where Chul had struck her, despite the blood matting her hair to her head where Chul had struck her, the pieces of Sylvie's confused mind slid smoothly back into rhythm with the illusion spell broken. She lunged forward to grab Chul's arm. Wait, how is she getting his arm? Wasn't he like down into this like hole or some shit? His face was slack, his eyes glazed over, and he did not fight her as she jerked him out of the way as Cecilia sent twin blades of mana slicing down toward them. Cecilia! I shouted. Wait, okay, let me reread this because I'm a little bit confused. So she lunged forward to grab Chul's arm. So this is Sylvie. His face was slack, his eyes glazed over, and he did not fight her as she jerked him out of the way. So Cecilia didn't attack. And then so Sylvie jerked Chul out of the way so he wouldn't get hit with the attack. As Cecilia sent twin blades of mana slicing down toward them. Cecilia, I shouted, unleashing an etheric blast from my open palm. Nico dodged to the side, but Cecilia took the blast head on, ether rippling over the surface of mana condensing around her. With one mana-formed hand, she waved away the last vestiges of the blast like smoke. She just waving away his blast like smoke. But she didn't do that last time. Last time she like dodged or something back when he was like pinned to the ground with that gravity. Waved her hand away the last vestiges of the blast like smoke. Still, her attention snapped back to me. Her spell slicing deep into the floor but missing my companions. I let the point of my blade tip toward the ground. I let the point of my blade dip toward the ground, but my knuckles were white as I gripped the etheric handle. Enough of this! I looked up from my blade, my gaze hard. Cecilia, come with me. I'll try to find a way to separate you and Tessia. She scoffed. Her cheeks turning bright red, her lips twisted in a disbelieving sneer. As if I could be so easily swayed or tricked. Bruh! But a Grona though. A Grona, he can easily sway you, easily trick you, but Arthur, oh no. I will not be so easily swayed. Let's get through it. You are a liar, Gray, and a bad one. Behind her, Nico's mouth half open, he hesitated, his throat working dryly, then finally said, we should hear Arthur out. His insight into ether surpasses even the dragons. Maybe he can. Cecilia cut him off. Don't be fooled! It was Cecilia's turn to hesitate. Her eyes flicked from Nico to me, then back again. He's the one that killed me, remember? Wait, what the fuck is this? Like, this is what I'm talking about. This makes no sense. Like, listen. She's trying to use the fact that he killed her to influence Nico to not trust him, right? That's what she's doing. She's trying to say, oh yeah, he killed me. He can't be trusted. But meanwhile, this bitch already knows that she let herself get killed. And she was talking about how she needs to talk to Nico about it at some point. So it's literally lies. She's trying to manipulate Nico off of a lie. Why? Because she wants Nico to look at Arthur as an enemy. But why does she look at Arthur as an enemy? Do we know why? No, we don't know why. Because she's just doing whatever Agrona says. Why is she doing whatever Agrona says? Who fucking knows? She just wants to. It's just the dumbest shit. It's the dumbest shit. I'm done. I just gotta calm myself. I just do not like this bitch, man. I don't. It doesn't make sense. Why is she fighting for Agrona? It don't make sense. I'm gonna digress, okay? I'm gonna digress, okay. All right, he's the one that killed me, remember? I couldn't help but let out a dry, humorous laugh. Has your mind twisted your memories after all these years, or did a corona do that to you? Speaking to Nico, I continue, unable to mask the bitterness in my tone. The hatred you have for me, the reason you strive so hard to destroy everything I cherish, was based on a lie. I wasn't the one who killed Cecilia. Shut up! Look at this! Like, now Arthur has to shut up. Man, this is like 12-year-old shit. Like a 12-year-old child throwing a tantrum, and she's hearing things that she doesn't want to hear, and she's just yelling. Like, but she's not 12 though. Regardless of how young she was when she died, she wasn't fucking 12. She was like what? 16, 17, I don't know, some shit like that. I don't even think we know her exact age when she died. We know that they weren't adults. Like, you know, they still could be adopted and shit, so probably like 16, 17 or some shit. Anyway, shut up, Cecilia screeched, the blistering emotion in her voice so raw that it stunned Nico and me both. So, I started, realization dawning slowly. It isn't that you don't remember, but you've chosen to lie and manipulate the only man that has ever loved you. Look at Arthur, like, okay, now it's finally clicking into place. Like a sudden hot breath on the back of my neck, black wind slammed into me from behind. A pent-up scream exploded. That must be Melsry, because she must be, Viessa dying. She's probably pissed off. A black wind slammed into me from behind. A pent-up scream exploded into the air. So, okay, let me say this really quick. So basically, if we were to understand this correctly, Cecilia is doing, and I think this is dumb, but if I were to try to summarize this, Cecilia is doing all this shit that doesn't make any logical sense, working with Agrona, lying to Nico, not facing all the truth. She's doing all this stuff because she doesn't want to face the truth of who she is, of her past, how she died. She doesn't want to face it all. And so instead of facing it all and coming to terms with the fact that she allowed herself to get killed because she didn't want to get manipulated because of, the person who she's become now, killing people or, working with a grown, she doesn't want to face all of it. So instead, she's going to just lie, manipulate, and ignore everything and pretend as if it didn't happen. So that way she can keep her false sense of reality intact. Which basically seems like she's a crazy person. I mean, that's kind of the summary I'm getting from this. She doesn't want to face the truth, so she's going to just do everything else to avoid facing the truth because she can't deal with, I guess, who she is or some shit. Anyway, so Melsry's mad. So a black blade ended up, let me see, where we're at. Shut up. I stared down, realization, blah, blah. Okay, I swear a pent-up scream exploded from the air, oozing fury and loss. I spared a quick glance back. It's like he's so casual. He's like, back to my conversation. Like he doesn't even give a fuck. I spared a quick glance back, squinting against the storm of void wind. Squinting against the void wind. Melsry was kneeling next to Viessa. The other scythe limp body pulled up into her arms. She was rocking back and forth. Wait, what? The other scythe's limp body pulled up into her arms. She was rocking back and forth, her mouth half open, disbelief and horror written in every line of her face. And it's so crazy too, because this shows you that like they actually care about one another. They're not just these evil scythes that's just like, hateful and want to kill and destroy. Like they actually care about each other. Like all this grief over her friend dying, like that should just let you know like they have humanity. Anyway, the void wind was spilling out of her, a physical manifestation of her grief. Then her eyes met mine, and she seemed to collapse into herself, the scream becoming a snarl, all that tension exploding downward as she dropped the corpse and leapt into the air, one blade gripping both hands and trailing soul fire like a dark flag. Black wind buffeted me, pushing dust and smoke into my eyes, coiling around my limbs and throat, entangling in my hair and attempting to pull me off balance. Tendrils of Cecilia's mana wove in and around Melsry, reinforcing the spell and holding it against my influence. I felt the regalia imprinted halfway up her spine activate as she channeled mana into it. So Melsry coming in for this crazy ass attack, and then, which is actually kind of new. So Cecilia's actually using her powers to reinforce her spell. So that's cool. And then she's using her regalia, so her regalia is part of the spell. So I wonder what kind of spell is it? Because it's just, as far as I can see, it's just like black flames on a blade or some shit. I felt the regalia imprinted halfway up her spine activate as she channeled mana into it. Mana condensed from the atmosphere into her cells, or her spells. Her body swelled with it. Hardening and strengthening, the sword blazed darker. The flames roaring 10 feet up from the blade. The wind's claws sharpened, digging deeper and harder. Cold white flames licked her body. 1,000 candle flames burning from her pores as her body overloaded on mana. Is she like gonna like lose control and possibly die from like the overabundance of mana? Ether burst through my hips. Ether burst throughout my hips, spine, shoulders, and arms, instantly bringing my blade up into a defensive position with enough power to rip through the clutching wind. The burst step delivered all of its potency directly into the... So is he using burst step into his blade now? The burst strike delivered all of its potency directly into the center mass of her weapon. Yeah, I think that's what he's doing. With a gust, the soul flames puffed out. Oh, damn, she's done? With a gust, the soul flames puffed out like a candle. Steel streaked, and the sword exploded, sending a shrapnel of broken metal spraying across the throne room. Melsry's arm wrenched unnaturally, and something inside cracked and splintered. I'm guessing that's her mana core. Her momentum carried her past me, where she stumbled and fell to her knees, clutching her broken hand and arm with the other. Mana condensed around her, scooping her up and carrying her away from me. Go, Cecilia said. You are no more use here. I could have stopped her, could have followed Melsry and struck her and her retainer down before she could withdraw the Tempest Warp from her dimension artifact. But I had a feeling whatever punishment that Agrona would deal out in response to their failure here will be worse than the quick death I could offer. So he wanted to make sure. So he let her go and her retainer because he figured that Agrona could cause her more pain than he could, which is kind of evil, but it's understandable. And then Cecilia's like, "You're no more use here. Just get out of here." So I guess Cecilia's gonna handle it all herself, huh? So what? So VS is down. Melsry's down. All we got now is Dreneve and Mawar, right? Or did Mawar go with her? That's her retainer. I'm not sure. As the Tempest Warp wrapped around Melsry and Mawar, yeah, it was Mawar, went with her, and VS's body and mana, and pulled them away, I let it happen. Mana was already coiling around Cecilia, preparing to strike, but Nico flew between us. Okay, so maybe this is what he was talking about. Nico is finally going to start to prove. Remember what he said? He said that Nico needs to prove that he needs. What did he say? He said Nico needs to prove that like he can. What did he say? Arthur said that Nico needed to prove to Arthur something. So I'm guessing that this is him proving that, you know, he actually wants to do better. So he actually getting between Cecilia. He's like, listen, just hear him out. Talk to him. Okay, so let's see where this goes. Okay, let's see where this goes. Blah, blah, blah. Where am I at? Okay. Mana was already coiling around Cecilia, preparing to strike, but Nico flew between us. I was surprised when he turned his back to me. What did Gray mean just now? He asked Cecilia. So he really doesn't know. Like, Nico's not dumb. You know, he's a crafty, smart, engineer type person. But I guess, how did he, I don't know. But let's see if Cecilia tells the truth. Tell the truth. Let's see if she does that. It's all in the past. Wait, yeah, it's all in the past, she answered. It's all in the past. Like these responses are just so childish. So it's all in the past now. That doesn't matter. But you're so angry about it, but it doesn't matter because it's in the past. Yeah, makes a whole lot of sense. It's all in the past, she answered, jaw tightened, eyes flaring. It's not what's important now, or for the future. I never murdered Cecilia, I snapped, my ire rising. Nothing about Cecilia's or Nico's actions made sense to me. Nico had apparently made himself a weapon for an evil tyrant purely to revive his dead love. But then he allowed her to be turned into a weapon as well, a fate identical to that of her last life, which she had killed herself on my blade to escape. In return, she hadn't even told him the truth and seemed to be using his hatred of me to continue to fuel his confrontation. So she's doing the same shit that Agrona did. That's also part of it too. That didn't click. She's like, I mean, like her manipulation is just like, she's like becoming Agrona in a sense, like slowly but surely. He had reached out to me, hadn't he? Sent me Sylvia's Manticore as a token and a plea so I would help Cecilia. How I had no idea, but he made no effort to stem the violence of this confrontation. Yeah, he's changed. He's it's like ever since he had that attack and he had his core reformed, I guess whatever shit was like influencing Nico to like, you know, give into that hatred, that anger, whatever, that all kind of subsided. I don't know if it was just like the manipulation or whatever, but whatever influence that Agrona had over him kind of dissipated at that point, and he became more clear-headed, right? So yeah, sent me Sylvia's Manticore as a token and a plea so I would help Cecilia. How I had no idea, but he made no effort to stem the violence of this confrontation. Liar, I watched as your blade went through her, Gray. Oh my God. Okay, liar. So this is Nico, liar. I watched as your blade went through her, Gray, he yelled. Bobbled up and down in the air, the mana vibrating around him in agitation. Cecilia slashed her hand in the air, and I dodged as the mana gouged through the floor like a giant scythe blade. This isn't even about what happened on Earth, Nico. Agrona wants Gray's core. So this is Cecilia. This isn't even about what happened on Earth, Nico. Agrona wants Gray's core. That's it. Gray doesn't matter anymore. He's just a road bump between us and getting exactly what you want. Don't you see? Before Nico could respond, the mana around Cecilia surged. So she's like, so listen, like, she just needs to be killed at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, if she really was a good person, then she would use these ample opportunities that she has to come clean, to face what happened, to, to tell the truth, to not use all these different things. She's just repeating what Agrona says. Like everything she says just sounds like some shit that Agrona would say. You know, he's of no use. He's just a road bump. Agrona needs his core. That's the only thing that matters. All our history and our past with him, irrelevant. So irrelevant to the point where they wanted to manipulate and hide the fact that he was even part of my life, right? That's how irrelevant he was. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to say it's all irrelevant, and you just need to just do what Agrona says. And so she's like, there's no redeeming her at this point. And so she just needs to be killed. Like, if Cecilia were to die, who would care? Would anybody care? Because I wouldn't give two shits at all. At all. And if Tessie ended up dying with her, so be it. You should have killed her when you had the beast core or the what is it called? The Elderwood Guardian shit. You should have already killed her, so somebody else is just doing your job for you. And then also you wouldn't have got taken. Well, no, that's not true because Arthur ended up doing that, so that's not true. But it is what it is. It is what it is at this point. But let's see where this goes. Let's see where it goes. I find myself just getting so frustrated with this character. Just, oh, God, Lord. Anyway, before Nico could respond, the mana around Cecilia surged. Thousands of fist-sized chunks of rubble jumped up into the air, flying high above our heads. In an instant, they were burning bright orange, heated from within by her power. I saw what was coming before it happened. Shield yourself, I sent to Sylvie. The dark sky was alight with 10,000 new stars. Then the stars began to fall. Burning meteors. She's like creating meteors. Like, wow. Okay. The stars began to fall. Burning meteors punched through what little remained of the ceiling and burst against the floor all around me. The throne room vanished in a cloud of dust and a heat haze afterglow of 1,000 burning projectiles streaking the air. I sensed more than saw the swelling of mana around Sylvie and Chul as the first of the meteors struck them. I dodged back from one meteor, pivoted as another glanced off my shoulder, then slipped. I wonder how big these meteors are. Dodged back from one meteor, then slipped into the woven paths of God's step to avoid a cluster of the projectiles. The place was crumbling, the air choked with heat and dust. My ears rang from the concussive blast of a meteor shower, and sulfur burned my nose and lungs. The beating of wings sent gusts of wind billowing through the palace, carrying away the dust. That must be Sylvie, right? The dust in large swirls and revealing a towering silhouette. Dark scales reflected starlight, and a huge golden eyes glowered around at the wreckage. Sylvie's graceful draconic neck lifted high towards the heavens, and she bared rows of fangs like swords. A long serpentine tail shifted through the rubble, sending broken stone cascading into many gouges ripped through the floor. So Sylvie's in her dragon form. So that's cool. I wonder if it's any different from how she was in her dragon form before, because she's like a little bit older now, a little bit more mature. Shit, when does not I'm about to say a sovereign. When does Asura even reach like maturity? You know, when they stop growing. We know their mana core gets more powerful as they get older, but I'm mostly thinking about their bodies and their forms and shit. Where am I? Yeah, she gave a shake of her neck and wings, dislodging the meteors that had penetrated her mana shields to lodge into her scales. Chul stepped out from her shadow, unhurt, as he gazed up at the dragon in amazement. The beating of Sylvie's wings had revealed the full devastation of Sylvie's spell. The entire center of the structure had been leveled. The throne room was all but gone, just a pit in the ground. I felt a shift in the ether around me. The relic armor had left Sylvie when she transformed, and I could once again feel it. Oh, okay. That's interesting. So it just disappeared. So the relic didn't get hurt or anything. It just kind of just disappeared and went back to Arthur. Into being over my flesh beside her. Oh no, I kind of skipped. Yeah. I could feel it once again tethering to me. Touching that tether, I conjured the armor. Cecilia gazed down at me in disappointment as the black scales feathered into being over my flesh. Beside her, Nico was pale and fidgeting nervously. I held his dark eyes. How do you expect me to help someone who doesn't want it? Yeah, Nico, I asked, unconvinced he would respond. Or was your message just meant to throw me off? Message? Cecilia snapped, looking sharply back over her shoulder at Nico. What message? I wasn't surprised that he hadn't told her. I mean, it's just so crazy. Like, they supposed to love each other. Like, this is such a toxic ass relationship. They're supposed to love each other, and they're supposed to be like, oh, you know, I care about you, but I'm going to keep secrets from you. And then Cecilia, in turn, I care about you, but I'm going to keep secrets from you. And somehow we're supposed to trust each other, and like, this is all just pathetic, bro. Young love, right? Is this young love? I wasn't surprised that he hadn't told her, but I seized an opportunity to keep them both talking. Nico sent me a gift and asked me to help you. He said I owed you a life because you never told him what you did. My tone grew sharper as I spoke, my anger burning just below the surface. You killed yourself on my blade, Cecilia. Do you even remember why? She blanched, and I saw in her haunted gaze. So I'm guessing at this point, even though Arthur's even saying it, Nico's not going to believe this until he hears it from her. So basically, at the end of the day, he might be questioning whether Gray's telling the truth or Arthur's telling the truth, but he ultimately is going to need to hear from her to actually believe it to be true. And so we're just going to have to wait for her to face reality and say that, yes, it's true, and like go through your fucking traumas and whatever the fuck she needs to do for her terrible ass character. I saw in her haunted gaze the memory of that moment, and I knew she remembered all too well. What? Nico choked out. Cecilia turned her back on me, reaching for Nico, although her fingers stopped just short of touching him. It's more complicated than that. You knew they'd use him against you, Cecilia. Yeah. You knew they'd used him against you, Cecilia. I cut in, unable to mask the frustration and bitterness in my voice. You made me kill you because you knew there wasn't any other way out. Not for you, not for Nico. You died to protect him. I scoffed, clenching my fist so hard that the bones ached. Damn it. I don't understand either of you. There's nothing to justify what you're doing for a grown-up. Enough, Cecilia screamed, the word resounding throughout the ruined palace, growing louder and louder with each reverberation. The few remnants of structure around us collapsed. My hands clasped to my ears. Oh wow. I felt blood trickle from my nose to my right. Chul leaned on his weapon, his arms wrapped around his head, his teeth bared like an animal. Above us both. So is she like screaming I think she's like continuously screaming. Chul leaned on his weapon, his arms wrapped around his head, his teeth bared like an animal. Above us both, Sylvie's head lowered, her eyes closed against the punishing volume. Taking a steady breath, I reached for the mana with my ether. The manifestation was wild and uncontrolled, lacking the overpowering force of Cecilia's focus. I broke it, and the noise faded away, leaving an echo ringing in my ears. Cecilia had already turned back to Nico. I'm sorry. I was afraid you were still under Agruna's influence and that something bad might happen if I told you. It's true? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Gray didn't... She shook her head, her body tense, her limbs pulling inward, and she wanted to curl up into the fetal position. Nico pulled away, aghast. But I saw... I'm sorry, Cecilia repeated quietly. She waited for a moment, watching him carefully. Does this mean your mind... Wait, who's saying this? So Cecilia said that she was afraid of him still being controlled by Agrona or manipulated by Agrona. And if they would have been honest with one another, they both would have already known that neither of them was manipulated anymore. Shit, Nico did what he did with, setting up, what the fuck is his name? Kiros. With him setting up Kiros and shit and, weakening him so that way Cecilia could absorb his Basilisk mana. He did that in hopes of once she got the Basilisk mana, she'll be able to break free from Agrona's influence. So he should have already known she wasn't being influenced anymore. I guess Cecilia had a reason to think that Nico wasn't as angry anymore. So she should have already thought that, okay, maybe Nico's not as angry, so he wasn't part of her, the influence, because he used to be really angry, fucking killing everybody, and she didn't like it. But then he wasn't doing that shit anymore, so... She shook her head, her body tense, her limbs pulling inward, and she wanted to curl into the ball. Nico pulled away, but I'm sorry, Nico, Cecilia repeated quietly. She waited for a moment, watching him carefully. Does this mean your mind isn't controlled by Agrona? Nico dragged his hands down his face. Whatever he'd done to inflate my rage and blurry the talents of my previous life leaked out of my core when Gray pierced it at the Victoriad. His voice was flat, totally devoid of emotion. But I knew what he'd done to your memory, Cecilia. I knew. I helped. And I thought you were still... He hung his head, his staff dangling limply at his side. I'm so sorry. They're like children, man. They like, at this point, you can kind of just look at them as like 16-year-old children who are just so naive, and they're just like, I thought you were still under his influence. I thought you were still under his influence. I'm sorry. And then now we love each other again? Okay. Okay. Um, they were completely engrossed in one another, their worlds having shrunk to the few feet around them in any direction. A cold, distant part of my mind, the piece of King Gray that I had resurrected to survive my trails in Alacria, recognized the opportunity. A quick thrust of my ether blade, and I could end the threat that each of them posed right here. Oh shit, he's thinking of okay. I like this. So his instincts are coming out. He's like, listen, I can be cold and calculating, and I can end this threat right now. But then Sylvie might be like, no, that's not you anymore, Arthur. Anyway, a quick thrust of my ether blade, and I could end the threat they each posed right here. Whatever Agrona planned for the legacy made even Kez's Indrath fearful. Striking them both down would end that threat and possibly the war. After all, I haven't discovered some fatal flaw in I hadn't discovered some fatal flaw in Cecilia's magic. Fighting her had brought me no closer to understanding how to separate Tessie and Cecilia. Tess was a warrior, no stranger to risking her life in the field of combat. Was she a warrior? I wouldn't describe her as a warrior. I mean, she was a fucking princess. Anyway, she wanted to be more like battle tested and stuff like that. She's made mistakes, you know. Tessa was a warrior, no stranger to risking her life in the field of combat. She had been ready to die fighting in the dungeons beneath the Beast Glades, in the forest of Elenwar, in the city streets against Nico and Cadell. She would understand. She would forgive me. But could I ever forgive myself? I'd already denied myself the chance once, choosing to strike out at Viessa instead of Cecilia when the opportunity had presented itself. Okay, that's interesting. But did I think I was prepared, or did I really think I was prepared to end Tessia's life alongside Cecilia's? How can you be so certain? Nico asked, his voice rising in frustration and drawing my attention back to them. Because I don't know anymore. After a beat of hesitation, Cecilia took Nico's hand in her own. Those are just the words of that awful scythe sticking in your head. If Agrona can reincarnate us from across the universe, bring us into this world, and make us powerful with only the resources he had now, why wouldn't he be able to send us back with all the power of Ephiodus at his disposal? That's my thought. So that's my thought process too. My thought process is that if he has the ability to reincarnate their ass, it shouldn't be too far of a stretch for him to be able to send them back. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's definitely a realistic possibility that he can do that. He's not going to do that, but it's a possibility that he's going to do that. That he can do that, actually. There was a pause, and she dropped his hands, turning to look at me with dawning realization. Is that why you took that dragon's core? To ask Gray for help? You want us to turn against Agrona? Like, turning against Agrona, like I just don't understand, like, why is that such a bad thing in her eyes? Like, what, is Agrona, she literally said to herself that Agrona was no threat to her anymore. So, by turning against Agrona, like, how is that a bad thing? It doesn't make any sense. Like, what's her logic? What's her logic? Oh, if we turn against Agrona, then we'll never be able to go back home? I mean, you want us to turn against Agrona? Nico's pale face went even whiter. No, of course not. So now he's not telling the truth again. Because he does want to turn against Agrona. Because he understands what Agrona is and how far he's willing to go to get what he wants. So even though they went and had this like, oh, I thought you was manipulated by Agrona. That's why I didn't tell you the truth. I thought you were manipulated by Agrona. That's why I didn't tell you the truth. Oh, so now we know the truth. Now I know the truth. So we can be truthful. But then Nico goes right back to, no, I don't want to turn against Agrona. He goes right back to lying again. Like, this is just, oh, God. Of course not. Gray can't help us, she shouted, her voice magically amplified. Just fucking kill them. I'm over this shit at this point. Just fucking slice their heads off. That's where I'm at. Gray can't help us, she shouted, her voice magically amplified, but lacking the crushing resonance of her last sonic attack. We've given everything to this, Nico, to Agrona, and we're so close. Don't let Gray manipulate you. Bruh, you was just trying to manipulate him yourself! I'm gonna continue. Am I crazy? Let me know if I'm crazy. I might be just crazy. I might be taking this a little bit too serious. She frustrates the fuck out of me, yo. I don't be this frustrated. I read other shit and I don't be this frustrated, man. You know, like I read Stormlight Archives. I don't be this frustrated. I be reading what the fuck was it? What was it? Shit. Stormlight Archives. Mistborn. I mean the Mistborn series. I don't be this frustrated. But for some reason, Cecilia gets me so frustrated, man. God, she's like this thorn in my side that makes me just go crazy. I'm glad I'm not the only one that feels this way. God, what was I gonna say? And we're so close. Don't let Gray manipulate you. He just wants this precious elf girl back. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. He killed me to get to her. He could have tried to kill you a whole lot of times, so that don't make any sense. You know he would. Nico also looked at me, frowning with confusion. Maybe I would, I interjected honestly, my tone bitter cold. I'm sorry I couldn't save you back then, Cecilia. I was so engrossed in my stupid quest to reach the top, to be powerful enough to right the wrongs that happened to our home, to Headmaster Welbeck, that I ignored everything else. The air between us changed. Okay, maybe they're able to get some closure and like put a button on this trauma from their past on Earth. The air between us changed, becoming charged with ether as I reached inward, pulling at all the strength and determination I could manifest. My gaze sharpened, ether swirling in response to this pull, as if it was acknowledging my will. All my focus and energy honed in on Cecilia. She stared back, those turquoise eyes hard and unyielding. I'm sorry, Nico. I don't think I can do what you asked. God's step wrapped around me, and I appeared at Tessia's side. Etheric lightning. Is he about to take her away? Etheric lightning racing across the scales of the relic armor. A blade. Okay, maybe not. Shivered into being in my fist, poised to plunge into the hollow at the base of her throat. Cecilia's arms, both flesh and mana, flowed smoothly into position to block the strike, just as I anticipated. Ether hardened beneath my foot, and I pushed off of it with all the well-orchestrated force of burst up. The platform shattered, but not before I took the near instant step to Nico. Oh, maybe he's grabbing Nico? Instant step to Nico, my arm moving faster than sight as I simultaneously activated burst step. Barrier after barrier of mana hardened the air between my blade and its target. Wait, okay, hold on. Let me reread this shit because I'm a little bit confused what's going on. Okay, so he says, I'm sorry, Nico. I don't think I can do what you asked. I don't think I can save her. That's what he's talking about. God's step wrapped around me and I appeared at Tessia's side. He's calling her Tessia. He's not even calling her Cecilia anymore. That's kind of interesting. Tessia's side, etheric lightning racing across the scales of the relic armor. A blade shivered into being in my fist, poised to plunge to the hollow at the back of her throat. Okay, so he got his blade, getting ready to stab her in the throat. Cecilia's arms, both flesh and mana, flowed smoothly into position back to block the strike. So he anticipated her blocking the strike. Ether hardened beneath my foot, and I pushed off of it with all my well-orchestrated force of burst up. The platform shattered, but not before. So he pushed off of the platform to shatter the platform, I guess, but not before I took the near instant step to Nico. So he stepped towards Nico, my arm moving faster than sight as I simultaneously activated burst up. So he went towards Nico and he activated burst up. So he's trying to kill Nico now? Barrier after barrier of mana hardened the air between my blade and its target. So Cecilia might be making some barrier of mana to protect Nico between my blade and its target. Each one cracked and then shattered. One by one, the air between us bursting with showers of mana-like fireworks. The blade came down on Nico's shoulder. Okay. The last layer of mana surrounding him quaked, and Nico hurled down into the rubble like a crash. Okay, I'm glad. Actually, I'm actually happy about this. It seems like Arthur's made up his mind now. And I'm glad that he's just making a decision because I'm just so sick of these motherfuckers even talking. Like, they're both just damsels and teenage drama, insecure, ignorant children who has way too much power than they even need to and just need to be called from the earth. That's just it at this point. So the blade came down on Nico's shoulder. The last layer of mana surrounding him quaked, and Nico hurled down into the rubble like a crash. A second later, I landed lightly next to the crater, my defenses already turning towards Cecilia. The ruined palace burst into motion. What the fuck is Chul and Sylvie doing? Like, they need to do some shit. The ruined palace burst into motion. Cecilia, her eyes bulging as she stared down at the crater, and her mouth open in a silent scream, took hold of all the mana around us and dragged at it, pulling it to herself. Ether spilled from me in response, fighting to shield my companions from being drained in an instant. Also, she tried to absorb their mana again, so he's shielding them. Damn, man. Sylvie and Chul kind of just looking like they're kind of more of a problem than any sort of help. Like, they're needing protection and shit. What is it called? They're more like hindrances. That's what it seems like they are now, because they're not even doing shit. Even as I warded her mana. Oh shit! I forgot to mute my phone. Even as I damn, I lost where I was at. Hold up, you guys. Hold on for a second. Blah blah. Fuck. Where'd I go? Yeah, I fucking lost completely where I was at. Where the fuck am I at? Give me a second. Okay, I think I found where I'm at. The last layer of mana surrounding them, yeah. So the ruined place burst into motion. Cecilia, her eyes bulged. Even as I warded off her mana draining spell, I felt mana condensing as she prepared a second attack. The flash of bright orange flame drew my eye to Chul's weapon as it flew like a meteor towards Cecilia. So I think Arthur's like legit, like, let's just kill these bitches. Like I'm ready for it. I'm ready. I'm ready. Just kill them both. Get it over with. He can't save her, and he can't save Nico, so we just need to get rid of him. All right, a flash of bright orange flame drew my eye to Chul's weapon as it flew like a meteor towards Cecilia. All of her mana arms flowed around her, stopping the weapon midair. Does this also mean that she can, like, never run out of mana? That's wild, too. I just thought about that. Like, does she even have stamina? Like, did she run out of energy? To where, like, can she be so tired that she can't even manipulate the mana even more, even though she's got a ton of it at her disposal? So all of her mana arms flowed around her, stopping the weapon midair. It exploded like a golden fireball as a beam of pure mana bisected the crumbling throne room, Phoenix Fire and Dragon Mana world. Hold on a second. Okay. All right, I'm back. All right. Phoenix Fire and Dragon Mana world combined into a maelstrom of destructive force, and Cecilia vanished inside the detonation. I think that's how I said that. Setting my footing, I conjured a second ether blade above my left shoulder, then a third in position. That's crazy, man, how he's got all these blades. Then a third in position to shadow the blade in my hand. Finally, a fourth appeared near my left hip. I'm just guessing he learned this during that training in the relic tombs. We just didn't know this. With all my ether exploded in a sequence throughout my body, driving me forward. With all my concentration, I swung all four blades. Something impacted against my chest mid-burst step. The world turned faster than I could make sense of, and I impacted something hard. I was back on my feet before I made sense of what happened. With Sylvie towering over me, one claw supportive against my back, I winced as the last of the combined magic of Chul and Sylvie swirled into Cecilia's body. Wait. What the fuck happened? So he conjured all these blades. I swung all four blades. Something impacted against my chest mid-burst step. So he burst step and swung his blades. Something hard or something impacted against my chest. So was it Sylvie who he ran into? The world turned faster than I could make sense of, and I impacted something hard. I was back on my feet before I made sense of what happened. With Sylvie towering over me, I think he ran into Sylvie. One claw supportive against my back. One claw supportive against my back. I winced as the last of the combined magic, all their magic. She had absorbed it all. Through Realm Heart, I could see how her body broke down the lavender-tinged purple barrier that Sylvie had projected. Through Realm Heart, I could see how her body broke down the lavender-tinged purple mana that Sylvie had projected. The sight sent cold shivers throughout my body. Without a core, the process seemed much faster, almost instant, and much more horrible. She can absorb even form spells, Sylvie thought, aghast. So she can so somebody can throw a spell at Cecilia. She can break down that spell and absorb it. That makes a lot of sense. Man. Cecilia's hungry eyes drank in the sight of purple-tinged mana flowing over her hand and between her fingers. Dragon mana. For an instant, she seemed lost in thought, almost amazed. From the corner of my eye, I saw Chul leap into the air. His fist. So this means that she can absorb an Asura's mana easily. For instance, she seemed lost in thought, almost amazed. From the corner of my eye, I saw Chul leap into the air, his fist wrapped in a claw of shaped flame. Yeah, his didn't get taken? Of shaped flames. Cecilia, intent on the mana she absorbed from Sylvie, was slow to react. Blood iron spikes formed from her shadow as the claw slashed across her throat, catching and deflecting the strike. The heat of Chul's spell cut through the black metal and slashed across Cecilia's jaw as she jerked away. Mana condensed into a battering ram that slammed into Chul and sent him careening away. Cecilia lifted her hand to her jaw, but the blow had left only streaks of ash across her fair skin. Nico rose from the crater his body had formed, his staff in hand, all four gems glowing. Blood ran freely from his nose and mouth, and his arm hung limply at his side. And yet, as he watched Chul land heavily on his feet among the rubble, he still had the energy to fly after him. Blood iron spikes firing ahead of him, and a dozen black arrows. With a heavy beat of her wings, Sylvie launched into the air. I just don't understand all this. Nico doesn't want to work with a grown-up. But yet he still continues to lie to Cecilia and say that, no, I don't want. And I'm guessing he's lying because he feels like if he really says that, she's going to turn against him, which means that he doesn't trust her. She doesn't trust him. They don't trust each other, but they love each other, but they don't tell each other the truth. Even after they told the truth forcibly from Arthur, but they still don't tell each other the truth. Chul landed heavily on his feet among the rubble. He had the energy to fly after him. Blood iron spikes firing ahead of him like a dozen black arrows. With a heavy beat of her wings, Sylvie launched into the air, whirled above, and then drove at Cecilia's claws, fangs, and tail flashing. So I'm trying to understand what's going on now. So did she absorb she couldn't have absorbed all of Sylvie's mana. So maybe she only absorbed the spell that she used. She absorbed that spell, and that spell had dragon mana, and that's why she was looking like, oh my god, this is some dragon mana, amazed. And then so Chul still has his mana, so she didn't absorb Chul's mana. So maybe that's what this is. She just absorbed her spell. That's why she said that, oh, she can absorb spells too? A gasp. So that's probably what it is. So I guess his shielding is still working. So Sylvie launched into the air. World above, then dove at Cecilia's claws, fangs, and tail flashing. Resummoning my ether blades, I rushed to support my bond. Bright beams of violet energy hacked and thrust at Cecilia from and what's up, Lebo? Violets of energy hacked and thrust at Cecilia from every direction. One struck her shoulder, but rebounded off of her natural barrier of mana. Another thrust into her thigh, but slid aside. Sylvie's tail battered her off balance, and my third strike landed solidly across her ribs. The mana gave way, and the ether blade bit into the flesh there. She hissed out a curse, and the ground vanished from beneath my feet, leaping off a shaky clump of hardened ether. Bruh, this dude is able to make footholds of ether too? Okay, they're giving him way too many. Like, how much shit did he learn how to do during that training arc? The XP grind, as I called it. Like, this motherfucker is now, I mean, he said it was shaky, so he just still needs practice. But he's making ether platform, which, okay, we know he can do this because he did it in the etheric realm when he was fighting Tacey, right? We know that he can do it. He made a fucking whole platform of ether back then because he had an abundance of ether around him. So we knew that this is all possible, but just like the fact that he can do all this shit now, like he made a shaky platform of ether to jump off of, like, god damn. Like the abilities that he learned in just that short time is crazy. Fucking can shield people with ether, can make multiple swords. He can stab into the fucking etheric pathways, make footholds of ether. Like, damn. Yeah, so she hissed out a curse. Leaping off the shaky clump of hardened ether, I drove forward with all 4 ether blades at once, knocking Cecilia back into my bond. Sylvie's claw came crashing down on Cecilia, whose legs gave out as she sank down to one knee. Bolts of mana burst outward from Cecilia, peppering Sylvie's huge body. I could feel her weakening with each blow. Is he talking about Cecilia? I think he might be talking about Cecilia weakening with each blow. Or maybe... No. He's talking about Sylvie. Because he said that bolts of mana burst outward from Cecilia, peppering Sylvie's huge body. So he was talking about Sylvie's huge body. He could feel her weakening with each blow. Chul's battle roar filled the air as I sensed Nico attempt to fly in our direction. I split my attention, hacking and slashing at Cecilia with my conjured weapons with most of my focus, but turning a sliver to the battle between Chul and Nico. Chul was wrestling with Nico in the air. The staff pulled across Nico's throat. With a downward thrust, he slammed the much smaller Nico into the ground, face first. Then his fists were wrapped in orange flames as they began to pummel my old friend. Just kill his ass, man. I'm done with them. Just get them over and done with. So then we can just focus on Agrona and focus on this fourth party and focus on Kezis, and we can just have our focus be on that. Fuck this Nico and this Cecilia. Like I'm over it at this point. So just pummel him, Chul. Pummel him in the face. A black spike shot up from the ground and punched through Chul's forearm, but he only ripped it free, turned it point down, and raised it over his head as he prepared to slam it into Nico's prone form. A bright light swallowed the battlefield before the blow could fall. Sylvie. Wait, a bright light swallowed the battlefield before the blow could fall. Sylvie, I shouted in my mind as I felt her mana being dragged from her. You should have known you couldn't hold out against me for long. Cecilia's voice resounded through the battlefield as the light dimmed to reveal streaks of mana pouring from Sylvie into Cecilia. Also, now he's taking her fucking mana now. Is he gonna be afraid and like try to take Sylvie and like teleport? My heart missed several beats as desperation overtook me. The etheric paths came to me and I stepped into them. I appeared between them, mana pouring past. Wait, yeah, I appeared between them, mana pouring past me on all sides. But I didn't release my concentration on the God step room. The lightning bolt paths open in every direction in front of me. Between Cecilia and me was a nearly impenetrable shell. I was about to say, so he could like stab into it and it might interrupt her sucking up her mana. So between Cecilia and me was a nearly impenetrable shell overlapping layers of mana. So intense was her concentration on her concentration of mana that it warped even the etheric pathways, deflecting them so that they blowed out, blurred, and grew difficult to trace. So he can't stab into it if the pathways doesn't, go towards her. Between Cecilia and me was, I already said that. Pathways deflecting them so that they bulged and blurred and grew difficult to trace. I listened. Past the hum of mana, the shouts from Nico and Chul. Angry, I listened. Past the hums of mana, the shouts from Nico and Chul, the angry hiss of Cecilia's breath. Through the crackle of flames and the clatter of stones, I listened, as 3 steps had taught me, to the ether's beckoning call, and I drove the sword forward. Oh, okay, so he's like focusing and listening. He drove it forward. So is this going towards Cecilia or is this going towards Nico? The blade slipped into the past, disappearing just above my hand, appearing again inside the shield, slid up into and between her ribs. Her body was moving almost before the blade appeared. The strike missed her heart. Damn! That's some shit. So he was able to get past her barrier and still get through, and she also sensed it, so she was already pulling away and dodging. Damn. So I'm guessing at this point she probably broke off her concentration to trying to take in Sylvie's mana. So inside the shield to slide up into and beneath her ribs, her body was moving almost before the blade appeared. Almost before it appeared, and the strike missed her heart. I pulled my sword back, prepared to thrust it again, but something else came with it. What? Something else came with his blade? I hesitated for a moment, uncertain what I was seeing. The blade of my sword was wrapped in a lavender. Oh, is it her mana? When he stabbed into there, but it didn't get her heart, it took away Sylvie's mana with it? I hesitated for an instant, uncertain of what I was seeing. The blade of my sword was wrapped in a lavender-tinged mana. Suddenly, something else was in control of the blade. Wait, the mana's controlling the blade? And it was twisting around in my wrist to slash across my own ribs. Okay, hold up. Okay, maybe it's not Sylvie's mana. Lavender tinged mana. But the only mana that was lavender tinged was Sylvie's though. So is her control over the mana so strong now that, okay, let me just read. I hesitated for a moment, uncertain what I was seeing. The blade of my sword was wrapped in a lavender tinged mana. Suddenly something else was in control of the blade, and it was twisting around in my wrist to slash across my own ribs. As the mana wrapped ether struck my armor, Cecilia's mana exploded out of her, hammering my own weapon into me. Cecilia's mana exploded out of her. Oh, so, okay. I guess it's like an explosion of mana. I rocked backward and the blade's edge drove through both my etheric barrier and the relic armor, carving into flesh and bone beneath before striking my core. Nausea ripped the strength from my limbs, so extreme and ever present that I fell to my knees. The sword vanished. My etheric barrier dissolved. Realm heart faded, and even my sense of it. How the fuck did she do this? Like, how the fuck did she do this? So, let me see if I can understand this. So he plunged his sword into the etheric pathways. It went in between her shells of mana barrier that she had. It stabbed her, right? Didn't it stab her? It stabbed her, but it didn't reach her heart because she moved in time for it not to reach her heart. And then when he brought the sword back, it was covered in this lavender tinged mana. And then the lavender tinged mana on the blade She like controlled the blade and made the blade try to attack him. And then I guess she exploded her mana on the blade. And then that explosion made the blade thrust through his etheric barrier, his armor, and hit his core. I'm guessing that's what happened. What are you saying, Lebo? She didn't control the ether blade like Arthur does. She just enveloped with mana, then controlled the mana. Wait, what? She enveloped with mana, then controlled the mana? No, that don't make sense because the blade is made of ether. So are you saying that she just enveloped the blade with mana? Because that's what I'm thinking. Like that purple tinge mana was her mana, I guess, or maybe her. I don't know. I thought the purple tinge mana was Sylvie's mana. That was the dragon mana. That's what I thought. Let me see if I can go back really quick. The lightning bolt passed, yeah. So between Sylvia and me, Cecilia and me, there was a nearly impenetrable shell. I listened, and he struck. The blade slipped into the pathways, and appearing again inside the shield, slid up into and beneath her ribs. Or into and between her ribs. Her body moved, and the strike missed her heart. He pulled the sword back. The blade was wrapped in lavender tinged mana. Suddenly, something else was in control of the blade. So the mana was controlling the blade. And it twisted, and it tried to strike him, and Cecilia's mana exploded out of her. But she said the mana exploded out of her, so it wasn't the blade that exploded, it was her mana hammering my own weapon into me. I don't really get how that happened, but okay. So anyway, nausea ripped the strength from his limbs so extreme, ever so present, fell to his knees. Realm heart faded, his sense of atmospheric motes of ether around the battlefield flickered in and out. I pressed one hand against my side. Hot blood gushed between my fingers. There was no sudden rush of ether to the wound, no itching warmth after flesh knitted back together. I reached for God Step, but there was no glow. So is it because of the strike to his core? Or did she put some mana around his core or some shit like that to stop his ether from working or some shit? I don't fucking know. But I'm trying to understand why isn't his ether working? But there was no glow or response from the God rune on my spine. Arthur, Sylvie screamed in my head at the same time as she unleashed a fearful roar. Sylvie's eyes had gone wide, blood leaking from the corners of her mouth as it fell open in disbelief. Her hands were pressed to the gory wound in her side where my blade had ripped out from between her ribs. A blazing conjure of fire and light. Because as far as I understand, Cecilia can't heal with just mana. Right? If this bitch can heal, man. Okay, so she didn't use ether. Yeah, I didn't think she used ether. I think that she used her mana to control the blade. That's what I was thinking. But anyway, but that's cool that he confirmed that. The blazing creature of fire and light swept past her. I saw only the outline of wings, blindingly bright against the black sky before a hot claw curled around me and lifted me up. Why isn't his ether working? She had to have done something. And then sped away from the palace. The city of Nirmala rapidly diminishing between us as we gained altitude. Sylvie, I thought desperately, panicked, breathing in my intestines. I'm here, she practically screamed in my mind, her nerves fried, so weak from the amount of mana that had been taken from her that she was struggling to maintain the draconic form. But they're coming, Arthur. I stared through the darkness at the distant palace, smoldering with tiny flames and sending up little plumes of black smoke that gathered in the sky above it. There was a spark in the night, like a shooting star chasing us across the sky. Slower, listing through the air as he struggled to keep up, was Nico. Chul let out a screeching caw that split the night sky like thunder. Couldn't finish the slimy little A beam of white-hot light split the sky, narrowly missing Chul's swing. Can't keep this up, he moaned. A beam of white-hot light split the sky, narrowly missing Chul's wing. Huh. Can't keep this up, he moaned, his voice husky and full of fire. I reached for the extra-dimensional storage room in the Tempest Warp within, but it didn't respond. This don't make any sense. So his ether isn't responding to him anymore. Or is it because he's like so dazed he can't focus? I fought to calm the rapid beating of my heart so I could focus and turn my senses inward, inspecting my core. The wound was deep. The wound was deep and bleeding extensively. My sense for ether was rapidly fading in and out, and I could intermittently sense the particles themselves. This don't make any sense, bro. Like, so basically, his own sword wounded him. But that don't make any sense. We knew that it was trying to slash against his ribs, but he didn't get the injury until she exploded with mana. And then I guess that caused the blade to puncture his core. But I still don't understand how that makes sense. Like, so he should be able to fix his core if he just focuses on the mana, like kind of like rebuild his core the way that Sylvie rebuilt Nico's core. He probably just needs time and energy to focus, and he doesn't really have that. The wound was deep and bleeding extensively. My sense for ether was rapidly fading in and out, and I could intermittently sense the particles themselves. All of the ether struggling to heal my body was focused on my core. A bright line had been scratched into the surface by the strike, and my healing ether was slowly filling it in, neglecting the rest of my body as it did so. Okay, that makes sense. So he doesn't have to focus on it. I guess he could focus on it if he wanted to. Regis would probably be really good in this moment, but the focus is on healing him, so that's why he can't heal his body, because it's healing his core. Okay, that makes sense. All right, my sense for so it's fading, so it's struggling. Okay, and so this only happened from his own sword. So it wasn't like a mana that hurt him or whatever. He got hurt by his own sword, which is crazy. Neglecting the rest of my body as it did so. Arthur, can't. My heart flew up into my throat as I plunged downward. Chul once again, humanoid flipping end over end into the air next to me as my blood rained upward past us both. A black on black shadow closed in on us, and Sylvie scooped us up in her talons just as another beam of mana lanced past. We're not going to make it far, Arthur. You're hurt, really hurt. Lacking the time or energy to explain, I simply let her into my mind as I reached for the ether around my core. I willed it to flow down to my arm. So he can stop. I wonder if there's going to be any sort of consequences of stopping his body from healing his core immediately. Lacking the time or energy to explain, I simply let her into my mind. I reached for the ether around my core. I willed it to flow down to my arm, where the spell form for the dimensional storage room was. Oh, a trickle responded. I pushed again, harder, pleading as I expressed my intent upon the ether. A little more broke away. The spell form tingled in my flesh. Cursing, I dragged my forearm across the point of Sylvie's talon, leaving behind a deep cut. So it's what, he trying to hurt himself to try to focus? Another pocket of ether traveled down my arm. Or no, maybe he's trying to, maybe he's trying to like draw the ether there. Maybe that's what's got. But so he's wounded himself to draw the ether towards that area so he can access the extra dimensional room. That's what I'm thinking. Another pocket of ether traveled down my arm. My mind lingered or linked with the dimensional space where my equipment was kept, and I withdrew the Tempest Warp. Sylvie shifted her claw to pin it next to me. Shit, I can't activate it, I thought. Sylvie should be able to activate it with her mana, right? Sensing Sylvie's intention, I watched as she shook Chul in her other claw, then pinched him hard, even as she dipped beneath a third beam from Cecilia. Chul gritted his teeth as he snapped back to consciousness. Yeah, what? The Tempest Warp, Sylvie boomed. His eyes struggled to focus on me. Then the device pinned next to him. I need to activate the device. Or you need to activate the device, I choked out, blood filling my mouth as I spoke. Sylvie moved her claws together and Chul rested his hand on top of the Tempest Warp. The mana flowed weakly. Sylvie gasped as a beam struck her. And so Cecilia's okay, chasing after their ass like a fucking hurricane, and they're struggling. You know, Sylvie got her mana taken away from her, so she's struggling. Chul, he's struggling because I don't know if any of his mana got taken away, but he was struggling with Nico, and then Arthur got fucked up, which I don't know how. I still don't understand how that even happened. Like, I understand her covering his blade with the mana, but like, I don't understand how she exploded from her body. Mana exploded from her body, and then that caused the sword to. I don't get that part. Chul rested his hand on top of the blah blah blah. Sylvie gasped with a beam stuck her, and we dipped into the air. Her claws loosened, and the Tempest Warp shifted. I wrapped my arms around it, and my head swimming as my wound exploded with pain at the motion and effort. She's catching up. Chul pushed out more mana, and I programmed the device. Sylvie transform, I thought, waiting. Her own thoughts came back to me, not in words, but pure disbelief, tinged with the suspicion that I had lost my faculties due to blood loss. Just do it. Her head curled around to look down at me, meeting my eye. Resignation leaked through our connection, and she was suddenly wreathed in mana, and the claws around me, Chul, and the Tempest Warp receded. And Sylvie shrank back into the form of a teenage girl. We fell. I activated the Tempest Warp. A portal appeared in the air below us, and we all plunged through. On the other side, we spilled across the ground like rolled bones, and the Tempest Warp bouncing before crashing into the middle of a rose bush. Oh, are they back in, what's the dude? Darren? I think Darren. Back in Darren's place? We fell. I activated Tempest Warp. On the other side, we split across the back of the, and the Tempest Warp bouncing between a rose bush. Untwisting myself, I stared through the portal into Cecilia's enraged face as the shining oval flickered out. So she was all pissed off and shit. Fuck Cecilia, we don't care about that bitch. Okay. What did you say? It was a power struggle for control of the blade. Then all at once, the force launched the blade into him. All at once, the force. Okay. So does that mean that the blade exploded? The mana that was covering the blade, does that mean that the blade exploded? Or does that mean that I don't get it though. Because it didn't seem like the blade exploded, like the mana that was controlling the blade, it didn't seem like that exploded, because it said that mana exploded out of Cecilia. So I'm not really sure. But I appreciate the likes. I appreciate y'all liking the video, by the way. This is crazy. This is crazy. I got a few thoughts before I get up out of here. Arthur still has his core. It would take him a few minutes. Yeah. We know he still got his core. Okay, so basically, let me try to summarize what my understanding of this chapter was. So Nico and Cecilia are trash. They just need to be killed at this point. Don't nobody give a fuck about them. Okay, that's what we're getting. Don't nobody care about them at all. Arthur seems to have made up his mind that Cecilia can't be saved, and he is resigned in the fact that he needs to kill her, which I think is good. I think that's really good. And so he's willing to kill her now. Just kill her, get it over and done with. A little late, but better late than never, right? So I guess Nico and Cecilia, they're still not telling each other the truth because Nico lied to Cecilia talking about how he doesn't want to go against Agrona, even though he does want to go against Agrona because he doesn't trust Agrona. Cecilia wants to trust Agrona, blah, 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 blah. So they just need to die. I'm tired of even trying to make sense of their relationship and their fucking stupidity. I just want them to be done. So I don't understand why Chul was having such a hard time with Nico. Like, that's making Chul look like pretty whack because fucking unless they show that Chul got some of his mana taken away from him, which I can understand that. If his mana got taken away from him, okay, I can understand it being a little bit more difficult dealing with Nico. But Chul should be fucking Nico up. It shouldn't even be a competition. It should be just pummel him in the face and then like it shouldn't be nothing. So I also know that Cecilia was trying to protect Nico too, so that's also part to play in their fight too, right? Arthur was doing really good until he gave her that blow that went beneath her ribs. But then when he brought it brought back her mana. I guess it was her mana. I thought the purple tinge mana was Sylvie's mana, but I guess it's not Sylvie's mana. Or maybe that was part of the mana that she took away from Sylvie, and that was like a stronger connection, and so that's why she was able to use it to control the blade. I'm not really sure about that, but some shit happened. She controlled his blade, it sliced him, and then her mana exposed from her, whatever, some explosion, and then his blade plunged into his core, striking his core. That ended up injuring his core, which allowed him not to focus his ether anymore. And without the focus of ether, he can't access his god rune. So he can't access Realm Heart. He can't access God Step. He can't even access his own fucking the dimensional storage room. Like, he can't access shit. And that's because of the fact that all of his focus in his body, once his body got wounded, all his ether focused on healing that wound. So then this motherfucker had to end up injuring himself in his arm near the extra dimensional storage room to get his ether to flow there so that way he can get the Tempest Warp out, and then he don't have mana or control over ether to activate it. So he needed Chul to activate it because I guess Chul's the only one who had mana left because Sylvie was running out of mana. But then he did the calculations on the Tempest Warp, which I don't understand how he was able to do that. If you can't activate it, how can you calculate it? But he did it anyway. And then Chul activated the Tempest Warp, and they went back to Darren's place because of the rose bush. It only makes sense. So, I mean, basically from this whole journey, what we got out of this was that Nico is beyond saving, Cecilia is beyond saving. Arthur made up his mind and said that he's going to kill the both of them. And, he killed Viessa. Melsry is injured. And Dreneve is unconscious. Dreneve wasn't even fucking part of the fight. And we found out that there's a fourth party who was able to take away all the mana from a fucking Sovereign and kill a Sovereign and everybody else and not even put up a fight. So I'm guessing that we can take this information back to Ceres, and maybe Ceres might have some more information, because I think he needs to tell Ceres that there's this fourth party involved. Somebody was able to take away the mana from of the Sovereigns and everybody else without even leaving a trace of any fight or anything like that. So maybe Ceres might have some information about, who this person might be. Maybe she's already connected with them, which is why she kind of started this rebellion in the first place, because maybe there's another person who has some sort of support, because they gotta be some sort of enemy against Agrona, because we haven't seen this happen to anybody in Daikathan at all. So only Agrona's forces were the ones that are affected by this. So that has to mean something. And so basically they just got to recover. Cecilia's injured. We don't think that she has the ability to heal, right? She can probably keep it at bay, her wound at bay, but she probably can't heal. If she can't heal, that's even more OP. I guess my thing is just that I just think that Chul should have I think that Chul should have killed Nico and then seen how Cecilia would have reacted to Nico being dead, and to where Cecilia became a true enemy and only working with Agrona. Nico's dead. She doesn't have any more reason, because she's fucking retarded, but she doesn't have any more reason to, try to get back. She's just a complete weapon now, which would be cool. Just have her be a fucking weapon. And Nico's dead, and they come back, and then they recuperate, and then now it's just a full-on fight. Cecilia Agrona, we got to kill Cecilia, no more hesitation anymore, and we just went from there. Because I don't understand how Chul didn't kill him. Like, he should have just fucking boom, 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 dead. You know what I'm saying? Like, she can't bring people back to life, so, like, that's what I think would happen. But, let me see what else you're saying, Lebo. Arthur said at his core, yeah, it's going to take him a while. I don't know about minutes to heal, but it'll take him a while. Arthur can use all 3 paths of ether. What does that mean? Use all 3 paths of ether. I don't understand that. How was Arthur able to use Spatium Vivum and possibly Avum during his last fight with Nico? He didn't. He didn't use Spatium Vivum and... No. From my understanding is that all of those attacks and everything, that all came from Spatium. Like the sword going through the pathways and appearing in different areas and shit, that's all from Spatium. Him maybe have the floating swords or whatever. That's all from him being able to manipulate ether and just have the swords floating and shit. Being able to wreathe everyone in his ether or whatever to try to protect them from in there, getting their mana pulled out. That's all from his ether. So I don't think he used all 3 of the. Where did he use? I don't think he used all 3 of anything. He suddenly had control over 2, possibly 3 ether arts when he let Sylvia's beast will take control. Wait, Sylvia's beast will take control while fighting. Wait, what do you mean? Let Sylvie's beast will take control while fighting Nico and Elijah. Oh wait, you're talking about before he... Okay, oh, you're talking about the fight with Cadell and all the rest of them. He let Sylvia's beast will take control. He was using all... Oh, so you're saying that he was using all 3 paths back then? No. Time, space. He was using Spatium. Because Sylvia's ether, her tendency or her branch was Spatium. So she can make that's why she was able to make a pocket dimension in Sylvie's egg or whatever the fuck to keep her safe or whatever. Like that's how she was able to do that, is because she has access to Spatium. And that's how she was also able to make that portal to send Arthur back to Elenwar, is because it's all Spatium. So that all came from Spatium. All her attacks or whatever when he had her beast will and stuff, that all came from Spatium. So yeah, I don't think he had 2 or possibly 3. So cause even he just had really good control over cause even when he was able to kind of like how you said that he was grabbing the world and folding it and then taking a step. That's all Spatium, bro. That's all Spatium. So making a portal, taking a step, all that stuff. He had Spatium back then. That was all it was. And the only reason he was able to use that was because of Sylvia's beast will. That was it. I think, right? Yeah. Because he was able to use Realm Heart, and Realm Heart was a Vivum technique. I think I'm right. But yeah, so I really like this chapter. I really like that Arthur made up his mind he's gonna just kill him. I really like that part. I'll give this chapter probably a 9 out of 10. I enjoyed it. They frustrated me, Nico and Cecilia and shit. But I think I'm coming to grips, and I'm just like, you know what? Just kill him. I'm not gonna let him frustrate me anymore. I think it's just just let him die, and we can just be over and done with, and I'm cool with that. The next chapter come out tomorrow, so that's cool. It's gonna happen pretty quick. But yeah, I appreciate y'all joining me on Thursday. I know it's late, but I appreciate y'all joining in. I did get a live reaction, so I could have just not done this shit, but I wanted to read the chapter and not just read it and then make a review on it. I figured a live reaction would be better, it'd be easier, and I could just upload this and just don't have to worry about doing anything else. But I appreciate y'all joining me in though, and I should do another live reaction to the next chapter on Saturday because I'm gonna be busy on Friday. So check me out on Saturday, and talk to you guys later. Peace.